Right, so the NHS is safe in Labour's hands, as the old adage goes. Yet with Keir Starmer, the party leader, and Wes Streeting, his health minion, both taking private health donations, along with an increasing number of Labour MPs besides them also doing the same. And you can track all of that on the Every Doctor UK interactive map. I did a video about that the other week. The number of Labour MPs on the take from private health have only grown on that map since. So do check that out for yourself. I'll link to it. But despite all the protestations about saving the NHS coming from Team Keith, frankly, it's a bit of a stretch to believe these days. If private health were not interested in NHS access via your party should they reach government, what are they giving donations to you for? However, the worst example yet seen by me, anyway, has been flagged up just this last week by Private Eye, and it considers a member of the hard-right Labour to Win faction on Labour's National Executive Committee. This is Luke Akehurst's faction. You all know him, of course, Mr. I Believe in Israel, the hard right of the NEC. But being on the NEC, it means this particular person now has an enormous amount of clout, not least from the perspective of formulating policy. Given Labour's disdain for Labour conference, where policy is supposed to be made and voted on and all that democratic business that they don't seem to like, you know damn well no input from them will be considered. But they also have a huge amount, as part of the NEC, over who can become a prospective parliamentary candidate for Labour as well. And when you see decent socialist candidates being overlooked all over the country in favour of people being parachuted in instead, well, having someone with links to private health there isn't just disgusting, it's positively dangerous and absolutely against everything the Labour Party is supposed to stand for. Now, the NEC member in question is a chap called Abdi Duale. Duale got elected to the NEC last September, and that same month, he took up a post as Director of Public Affairs at FTI Consulting. Duale just this week celebrated his 27th birthday, so quite the achievement for one so young. But the fact that the director of the Progressive Britain faction of the Labour Party, formerly called Progress, happens to be a partner in FTI, I'm sure has absolutely nothing to do with it. Though again, another Labour figure, arguably Starmer's sort, the risibly called moderates when they're anything but, they're right-wing, with links to wannabe NHS privatisers. Who be FTI Consulting is more the point, though, because functionally they're a lobbying firm. When you read things about them like strategic consultancy or direct advocacy, read lobbying firm, and this is exactly what they do. And one of their clients is the US data analytics giant Palantir, owned by the Donald Trump-backing billionaire and national conservatism fan, Peter Thiel. So he's a Nat C, politically putting him in the same bracket as Jacob Rees-Mogg and Suella Braverman, as if the Trump-supporting bit didn't demonstrate that to you adequately already. Thiel is a massive proponent of deregulation and government oversight. The NHS is absolutely anathema to somebody like him. Just last January, he claimed that the NHS actually makes people sick because of healthcare dependency. So socialism likely brings him out in hives. If you're familiar with The Lord of the Rings, the name might ring a bell, named after those sketchy seeing stones Gandalf was a bit nervous of. Gives you somewhat scarily accurate idea of Palantir, the company's business interests, and why you, like the Grey Wizard, ought to be wary too. Now, Palantir have enjoyed many a government contract under the Tories. You can look up the government contracts finder page and do a search, and up come all sorts, mainly through their Palantir Technologies UK division, and have anything from defence data contracts to NHS data contracts. So that's their business. And they have many other companies doing work for them for various things or another, mainly reputation clean-up, I guess, selling this place as some sort of a good thing. From FTI, you've got something else called Fleetwood Strategies. There's another company that does lobbying work for them, and it's the lobbying company of Rishi Sunak's political strategist, Isaac Levido. Another one is Global Counsel, another lobbying consultancy run by a chap called Peter Mandelson. Ever heard of him? Well, Palantir was a firm that was reputedly also linked to Cambridge Analytica and was accused of helping them to mine data. A whistleblower called Christopher Wiley, you might remember him from various news reports, said that Palantir showed Cambridge Analytica how to harvest data from Facebook, for instance. And you think to yourself, well, that was a wee while ago now, surely our government wouldn't want to still be giving them contracts. So you'll be fascinated to hear this firm got a £75 million MOD contract just last month, lasting for the next 3 years, providing software up to and including the highest of security levels. All classifications is what it says on the government's own website. Nothing to worry about, nothing to see, though. But let's bring this back together somewhat. I could go on and on for hours about the dangers of palantir, but a chap called Stefan Simonovitz on Twitter has put together an absolutely epic thread on Peter Thiel, on palantir, and its threat to our NHS. So do give that one a look. I will put a link to that in the sources. What we have here is a billionaire-owned data crunching company, fundamentally, with multiple UK government contracts that may have been involved in using its data analysis skills to have interfered in the Brexit vote, and is still getting government contracts in our health and defence sectors, no less. Run by a guy who, by all accounts, will give his left nut to see US health conglomerates and Big Pharma annihilate our NHS, that uses various lobbying companies to buff up its image, not least ones owned by Keir Starmer's closest political advisor, Epstein's mate, Peter Mandelson, but also a consultancy that has a director of Progressive Britain as a partner, but which also employed a brand new NEC member from the right faction from seemingly the moment they were elected to the NEC, a director of said company. Nothing to see there, though, of course. Not only are Labour politicians taking private healthcare donations, but people high up in the right-wing factions are actively working for those companies with interest in seeing our NHS torn down. Abdi Duale is close to the health minion Wes Streeting, is a huge fan of Starmer. And if you go onto his Twitter feed, you can see him extolling it to sickening levels. And he is happy to work to further the interests of shady, let's use that word, shady, let's call them, US companies to get their claws into our health service. All that talk of more private health provision to support the NHS that comes from Labour these days, it's not something they actually believe in. They're saying it because they've been bought and paid for to do so and serve the interests of their paymasters and not the electorate, not the British people who need a functional, publicly free at use health service. Anyone taking donations from anyone interested in private health provision is not on the side of our 75-year-old health service, and sadly the Labour Party upper echelons seem to be absolutely riddled with such people now. Fortunately, there is always independent media here to call it out, here to shout about it a little, draw attention to it a little bit so you don't miss it, so it doesn't pass you by. And so after you've liked, shared and subscribed to this channel so as to ensure you remain informed of the stuff the mainstream fails to, albeit whilst having to put up with my face, sadly, you can take a look at my review of the Every Doctor UK site, telling you all about the parts of our NHS already being run by private health providers and which MPs are on the take from such people, such companies. Perhaps your own MP is on there and you might like to ask them about that. Stick with the channel, lots more to see. Link to that bit is here, and I will see you on the next video. Cheers, folks.